Welcome, my friends. Welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Monday, March 20th. We are here live. It is a free-for-all kind of day. We're going to open the phone lines right now. We have no guest. We have no theme. It's all about what you want to talk about today, so pick up the phone and join me. 855-950-3835. Jump in right now. Anything goes. If you have a question, a comment, a topic, we can talk about trucks, money, fuel mileage, maintenance, tires, taxes, technology, health and fitness on the road, getting started as an owner-operator, finding freight, working with brokers, getting your authority. You name it, we'll talk about it. All you have to do is pick up the phone and join us. Lines are open. Jump in. Let's get started today. So, what's going on in your world today? I was reading an article this morning. This really involves a lot of things that I talk about, trucking and rates, but food and what's going on in the country. They are predicting a very weak growing season in California. Too much water this time. California is wet and it's slowing down several of the seasons. Looks like strawberries are going to be heavily affected, lettuce. Those seem to be the two big, but looks like just about everything coming out of the Central Valley. And then they're really expecting a weak tomato crop this year. They're not able to plant yet. They should be planting tomatoes and it's too wet. So they're expecting a weak season all summer. You know, when it comes to rates, we all look forward to summer. We talk about the 100 days of summer when rates are strong. And a lot of owner-operators or drivers, if they don't haul produce, then they think, well, this doesn't affect me. But it does. Those trucks that would normally be very busy moving produce all summer, many of those trucks, when there's not enough produce, will have to go move other freight. This can affect everybody. When one segment in trucking is down, it affects every segment. The oil fields are a good example. When the oil fields are booming, it tends to be good for trucking in general. It pulls a lot of trucks off the road into the oil fields. We may not realize how many trucks go pull a lot of produce out of California all summer long, and it looks like it's going to be heavily impacted this year. We're talking about significant changes in volume. So that, to me, that's concerning for two reasons. It's concerning, one, for trucking and rates, but it's also concerning for us as consumers, what's going to happen to food prices. This doesn't really have anything to do with all the other reasons we're seeing inflation, but pile this on top of those reasons, and you start to wonder how people are going to afford to be able to eat. Egg prices, I just saw one of the stores, I don't know, Dollar Tree or some store, I didn't even know those stores sold eggs. I don't know that I've ever been in one of these stores, but they are just dropping eggs. For now, they're not going to sell eggs because they're just too expensive. That doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon. Now, if we have a really bad produce season in California, the cost of food is going to continue to climb, which will add to the inflation, which seems to be the biggest problem in our economy right now, although we're in a really difficult place. The Fed, I don't know what they're going to do this time. They were raising rates to slow down inflation, and it was starting to work. Now, the reason it works is never all that great. The reason raising interest rates can bring down inflation is because it brings down economic activity. People stop buying, people slow down producing. So it's not great, but it was starting to work. We were seeing small decreases in inflation every month until last month. And then inflation went back up. Now, right after inflation goes back up, then we have the bank scare, which we're still in the middle of. This is not over by any stretch. And what you would want to do to try to fix the bank scare is lower interest rates. That's a tough spot to be in. You can't lower interest rates now. Inflation will take off again. But if you keep cutting rates, then the economy might tank. This is the kind of situation we had to deal with in the late 70s, early 80s with Carter as president, something we called stagflation. And we're kind of seeing that right now. The economy is starting to stagnate some, and we're still seeing inflation coming back. It's a really weird place to be. When you're in that place, there's one thing that you want. When we are in an economy like we're in right now, what you want is cash. You want cold, hard cash. You don't necessarily want it in the market or in real estate right now. What you want is cash. One of the things that occurred during stagflation, if it happens this time, I'm certainly going to take advantage of it. The last time this happened, I didn't have two nickels to rub together. I was only 17 or 18 years old when this was going on the last time. But I had a brother-in-law, the same brother-in-law that taught me how to paint cars, was also really good with his money. And I can remember him telling me, I didn't really get it. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what a big deal it was at the time. But he was putting cash into CDs, certificates of deposit. We used to hear that term a lot, CDs. You almost never hear it anymore because the interest rates have been so low for so long. You would never want to tie your money up into a CD when interest rates are really low. But CDs are very, very safe, meaning their value doesn't fluctuate. You're not taking, well, I was going to say you're not taking any risk. You're always taking some sort of a risk when you invest. The risk investing in a CD, no matter how high interest rates are, is that they could go higher and then you've locked your money in at a lower rate. But that's not a bad risk. I mean, that kind of risk I can deal with. There's no risk of losing money. There's only a risk of losing opportunity with CDs. So CDs, you buy them in different time frames, 3 months, 3 years. 1 year CDs are probably the most common. When you buy a CD, a certificate of deposit, let's say you buy a $1,000 CD and you know when you buy it what the interest rate is. Now, for the last, as long as I can remember, 15 years, the interest rates just haven't been high enough to make it worth looking at CDs. Again, once you buy it, you do tie up that money for that time frame till your CD matures and you can get paid all your interest. You don't want to cash them out early. So you are tying up money for a time frame. But right now I'm seeing CD rates start to climb and look pretty enticing. When we get to the point, if we get there again, where CD rates were paying 10%, that's an incredible opportunity. You think about, the kind of money you can generate just having some cash sitting around if CD rates go high. Now, everything else about an economy with 10% CD rates sucks. Your credit card rates will be through the roof. Car loans will be expensive. Forget mortgages. They hit 15, 16, 17% when this was going on. That's insanity. Anybody that buys a house when interest rates are that high, unless they pay cash, but anybody borrowing money on a mortgage like that should have their head examined. But we are probably heading back into those kinds of economic numbers. If you don't already have cash, I hate to say it's too late. I guess it's hopefully not too late, but you've really got to start paying attention to this economy. So I talked about the fact that I'm worried about people's bank accounts and their money and their savings, especially when this economy slows down and it's really happening. But I'm just as concerned, maybe even more concerned, about our food supply, because a lot of these stories seem to always include food for some reason. So I'm looking at the phones. I don't have a single call yet. What's going on? light up some phone lines here. I have some things I can talk about, but I'd rather find out what's on your mind today. Talking right now about the prediction for a very weak produce season for California. That's going to start impacting already. I mean, we should be moving a lot of this freight already, but it also means that we're probably looking at a pretty slow summer for California produce, which means rates won't be as good, and trucks that typically haul produce are going to be out looking for other freight. So this will affect a lot of us. You know, talking about food and food prices and, food shortages, I've been talking about gardening a lot since 2020. Interesting enough, we had kind of a crazy winter here in Oregon this year, colder than normal. We got down into single digits for a couple days this year, which is really odd for us. But this past weekend, it just cleared up really nice, and it was good timing for me to get out in the garden. I've had one other kind of a half day out in the garden a couple weeks ago. Got out and did a little cleanup, but this weekend, I got a lot done in the garden. I'm feeling it too. Boy, I am just sore all over. Everything hurts right now. But I had a great weekend in the garden. It was cool, but nice and sunny and clear. Beautiful day. Aaron's telling me I should refresh my screen again. I have tons of calls. Something seems to have changed with my software. I don't know what that is. I better start refreshing my screen. I do have a lot of calls, so I am going to get to them. Since I started the gardening story, I guess I'll go ahead and finish it. No, you know what? I'll get to the calls. I'll come back to the gardening story if I need to. Let's go to Texas to get started today. Fred, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kev. How are you?
Sore. I'm hurting today.
You beat yourself up over the weekend?
Man, did I ever. And I did this thing. I thought I was being smart. So normally when I go back into something like this, I'll do heavy lifting, like moving around compost or mulch or dirt or that kind of stuff. And it'll just kick my ass the first day. So this time I thought, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do more easy stuff so I don't burn out in, a couple hours. I want to be able to get a lot done. So I was doing easier stuff. I've already got stuff planted this year. It's the earliest I've ever been planted. The greenhouse is in full swing already. But that strategy of doing lighter work longer, I don't know that it worked because now every muscle in my body hurts.
Oh, that's what happens sometimes. We feel good, we keep going, and we pay for it 2 days later.
I don't know how many times yesterday I was finishing up like a certain task. Like I looked and said, I really need to get that done. And I'd finish it up and say, you're starting to feel like you should probably quit. But it's this energy. I always have energy. So no matter how bad I felt, there was still energy. I'm like, you know what? I could do one more thing. Yeah.
I feel grateful for my bed because it has that low vibration to it. Yeah. And it really takes some of that pain out of your muscles sometimes, especially my lower back.
Yeah, I should have done the infrared sauna last night, but I was just too tired by the time I got done. That would have helped a lot. I'll probably do that right after the show today.
Yeah, I pushed myself pretty good over the weekend. Got my body battery into the 70s and 80s, which was good.
Nice. Yeah.
I didn't get much sleep last night, so I'm down a little bit today, but I feel good. I'm feeling good. I have nothing really. I'm working today. Got nothing really going on as far as heavy work,
Good.
So it's good.
Yeah.
But we've been kind of distracted with this fiasco in New York and Donald Trump again, and we're missing, people are missing sight of what's going on in the economy. I don't know if it's a planned action to distract. I'm not sure about that. But, I heard an economist saying with this banking system, there is $630 billion of unrealized losses. And that's with this Treasury story, as Silicon Valley Bank had to sell their treasuries to a loss. And what unrealized losses are for people who I didn't know what it was until I kind of got into it, is like when you buy a CD or a treasury bill at 2 or 3% and you have to sell it at 5 or 6%, is not worth any money.
Yes.
So
yeah, that's a bad thing.
Yeah, it's a bad thing. So that's another shoe to drop here in this economy that may or if they haven't accounted for that with their assets and their deposits, that we could see a lot more failures. And what gave me pause was when all of these big major banks, the Citibanks and the J.P. Morgan Chases and Wells Fargo, injected that fairly big bank, that First Republic Bank, with $30 billion over the weekend. You hear about that?
Yes.
So that gave me that's why I started digging into that a little bit and trying to figure out. And I ran across a couple of people with this whole, I thought they had the finger on the pulse of this. And so
yeah,
it's just something else for people to just be mindful of. I don't know what that's going to do to us regular folks, but it's definitely going to hurt the big money movers.
Yeah, I can't see a way out of where I think we're in for a pretty deep recession. I mean, I just don't see much way out of it. They keep talking about it. I'm going back and thinking about a show we did. It was about this time of year because I think it was part of the year we did the virtual mats. I think that's why we were doing an event. It was a Zoom call.
Right.
And I think it was part of doing virtual mats. Remember I had the financial panel?
Yes, I do remember that.
Do you remember?
How you doing, sir? I got that C-17. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, I remember you had all those people on. It would be nice.
C-17, you dealing in airplanes or what?
I'm sorry. No, I'm delivering some chemicals. I just got to my delivery. I want to tell them what I had on the truck.
Don't spill
it's a in-house product. No, definitely not. But yeah, no, that was a very informative panel too.
Do you remember?
You had Noel Perry on there and a few other people. It was very good.
Do you remember what Todd Amon said?
Oh yeah, he's the guy from
ATBS
Truck Stop, right?
No, that's Brent.
ATBS rather.
That's Brent. Brent was on the panel too, though. Right. Brent was on that panel as well.
Yes.
So was Chuck Snow, I think, the CEO from Trafix.
Yes,
Chuck was there too, I think. So Todd made a statement that was just jaw-dropping. When he first said it, I thought he was joking. And then I went and did some research on it, and he wasn't. I'm not sure how I never really came across this concept. It doesn't get talked about a lot, but the idea has been out there. And the idea was that the government had figured out that you could just keep printing money to avoid recessions, and that we were never going to have a recession again because the Fed and the government figured out how to manage the money. And when we need more money, just print more and we'll be okay. And at first, when you hear that, I thought it was a joke, but it's not. There is this economic theory that we could manage money in a way that we wouldn't have recessions and we wouldn't have these up and down cycles. And it started.
Yes, now that you say that.
Remember, it was like, what? Are you crazy? We all kind of were, and Todd was serious. And there is a theory out there that does believe this. And think about it. Our last major pullback of any kind, which was a big one, was 2008. I mean, it was the worst we've had since the Great Depression, which none of us were alive during. So,
right.
2008, I can remember talking about when we got to like 2017, I was saying, this economic run is really long. We normally don't see that kind of long uphill run in the economy. And that's when Todd was saying, well, that's how our economy is going to work from now on. There won't be recessions. And we all kind of shook our head and said, that's crazy talk. That can't work. But then in 18, the economy kept going. 19, the economy kept going. And we were saying, this is a really long run. When is this going to kind of turned the other way. Then COVID hit, which totally threw off all predictions and everything. With COVID and government spending trillions of dollars and businesses not being open. And I mean, we've never seen anything like that. So we don't know how that affected our economy. Now we're starting to see the cracks in the armor, the rates going up, inflation being crazy. So maybe this whole, pie in the sky rainbow vision of no recessions isn't going to work. And if that's the case, then I think
that's that modern monetary.
Yeah,
that's that modern monetary theory. I think you're talking about, correct?
Yeah. I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. And you know what it is? It's like I heard a few guys kind of lay it out. It started in the end of in 20. Hold on one second. Yeah. He wanted me to back up. It started in 2020 with Trump, and with he had to stimulate the economy. He had to keep everyone going. I think it was a good idea. I think who was his Treasury Secretary was Mnuchin.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they came up with a good policy with the PPP program and stuff like that. I think that was a necessary evil. But once he was handing off the economy, go ahead.
Let's just go back. I agree with you that it was a necessary evil to start giving money to businesses only because of the unnecessary evil of locking them down in the first place. So yes,
100%. It wasn't a necessary thing.
Right.
You're right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was only necessary because they created the situation that made it necessary.
Yes. Exactly. That's 100% right. So the advice was shut down the whole economy to stop the virus, which would never work. And everyone who had a brain thought that way, but everyone else didn't. So the government came up with the policy of the PPP since they were going to shut it down because the so-called experts was telling everyone to shut it down. So they came up with the PPP to help businesses at least stay solvent through that time, or try to stay solvent through that time of shutting down. And truckers didn't have it as bad as restaurants and venues and everybody else did. Now certain segments of trucking did, of course, because of the other segments that got completely shut down. But when he handed off the economy to the Biden administration, the economy was rolling back strong. And their other COVID bill, $1.2 trillion, I think it was, and then their infrastructure, $1.7 trillion, and then this last bill they passed right before the new year, which was another almost $2 trillion, is why we have such a high inflation.
Yes,
because there's just too much money out there in the ether. And everything, all the spending, all the retail has artificially inflated sales because people are spending money they shouldn't have. People aren't working, going back to certain jobs because they don't want to do it. Guys who are our age, that got a big inflow of cash. Plus these states, these blue states like New York and New Jersey. A friend's neighbor up in Jersey is making, him and his wife are making over $100,000 a year staying home. Still today. And that's in Jersey because of the programs that the state still has in flux. But, so this is why we got to this area. But another thing is, I don't know if you noticed that the Treasury, Yellen and the Biden administration came out and now said, at any other banks that have these stresses, they're not going to cover the depositors all of a sudden, which they did for SVB.
Yeah.
And if you take a deep dive into this, Gavin Newsom, I didn't realize how rich the guy was. The governor of California.
Yeah.
He owns 3 or 4 wineries. That French Laundry restaurant, which is one of the highest restaurants as far as money in the country, he owns that. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. I knew he
Also,
owned wineries.
yeah,
I did not know that he owned the French
that
Laundry.
restaurant. I think that restaurant is on one of his wineries. I think. I don't know for sure, but
Yeah,
that's what I
it's in
kind of
Napa.
gathered in a conversation. Yeah, a conversation. Someone said, Talking Head said on the news, and I kind of caught it. I didn't go back and look at it or even research it, but I didn't realize how much money this guy has, which is good for him. I mean, I don't deny anyone, but now I understand why he's the governor of California.
You know, I love capitalism. So when people are successful and they make lots of money and all that, I am all for that. Except for the fact that it seems now, though, that our politicians are able to create incredible amounts of wealth when they've never had a real job or a business.
Right. No,
how does that happen?
I mean, look. Our current president is exactly the
he's never had a job. I mean, the guy's 80 years old. He's never had, other than a government, he's never, I shouldn't say never. Right. If we go back far enough when he was young enough, he probably had some odd jobs here and there. But for the most part, we know when he became a senator, and it was really young, and he's been in the government ever
right outside
since.
Of college.
Every dollar he has earned has come from the taxpayers. How does he end up so wealthy? How do any of these politicians end up so wealthy?
Barack Obama, again, another one. Barack Obama.
He was a community organizer.
Community organizer, yes.
Come on. How do you end up with millions or tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars when your only revenue comes from the taxpayers? And then they'll claim, well, they made such amazing investments. Oh, yeah. They're all Warren Buffett, right?
Yeah. Well, that's Pelosi's husband.
Well, yeah, it's easy to make good investments when you have all kinds of inside information from your wife. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And now, all of a sudden, because her time in Congress is done, now she wants to pass the bill where they can't. Members of Congress can't invest in the market now.
And you know what's crazy? I agree with her. Of all things, I agree with her. We should have a law like that.
Yes, 100%. So another, but another interesting thing about that SVB, that's the Silicon Valley Bank, is that a lot of these startups were capitalized by Chinese government money.
Yeah, that's.
Is there some kind of a back end deal with that?
I don't know.
Who knows? I mean, it's just so curious and so odd that they jumped at this to. Listen. I mean, like we all know. I mean, if you're successful and you have millions and millions and millions or billions of dollars in your corporate fund, and all right, there's only so much that's going to be protected by the FDIC. So I guess you're going to have that kind of risk involved with making that kind of money and keeping it someplace, because you can't keep it under the mattress. You're a business.
Yeah, so, but there are plenty of ways for a business to protect and shield that money. And the other thing we need to think about when we talk about this is, most of my life, I've never had to worry about really shielding my money that strongly. I shouldn't have to.
Right.
I shouldn't have to worry about the bank collapsing.
Well, this goes back to what there are systems in place.
Let's talk about something else. I keep meaning to ask this question or go to look this up because I don't fully understand how this works. The FDIC, the Federal Depositors Insurance Corporation, I believe that's what that stands for.
Okay. Yes.
So the banks have to pay fees into the FDIC, right?
Correct.
Now, we could say the bank pays the fees, but businesses don't really pay for things.
We do.
We do. They all get passed along to us, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with this idea of a form of insurance in case the bank does collapse. When was the last time a bank collapsed? Any significant bank that made the news? I mean, it really hasn't happened since 08, 09, right?
It was, yeah.
So, we've had the strongest economy ever since 08. I mean, we were just talking about that. It's a crazy strong economy. All kinds of money being moved around, goods, services. Those banks have had 15 years of collecting these fees with no collapses. Shouldn't there be about $1 gazillion in there by now?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I wonder if someone's using that money for another fund.
That's what I mean.
Why in the government?
If we look at the history of banking in this country, we very seldom ever have failures, but we have this process where they collect money constantly to protect against failures. Where the hell did all that money go?
Yeah. You have to. I mean, I hope someone looks into this a little deeper. But again, this bank shouldn't have been able to collapse because they have systems in place regulating this and oversight, which was not done in a proper fashion. Everyone hears about stress tests. What stress test means is that they have a certain amount of deposits, and they have to be able to have that money somewhat secured for those deposits.
Right.
And that's why these regulators from the Federal Reserve, they're the regulators. They're supposed to be. That's why there's Federal Reserves for each region. There's a bunch of different banks around the country called Federal Reserves. There's Kansas City, Philadelphia, New York, Houston, San Francisco is one of them. I mean, they're all over the country, and they have a certain amount of banks that they're supposed to monitor and make sure that they're solvent. And this was something that happened that was over. There's people coming out of the woodwork that's warned about this a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, about these banks doing this risky behavior.
Yeah.
So, is there going to be any consequences for those people? Who knows? It just seems like no one. All this stuff happens, and no one ever gets put on the hook for it unless.
That seems to be the case. We just go from one crisis to the next.
Yeah. Well, another thing, I get into all kinds of craziness. So my neighbor is in some kind of organization. I didn't know much about it. It's called the John Burke Society. They're a bunch of tin hat wearers, so I thought I'd fit right in.
Okay.
So I went to one of these meetings. A couple of weeks ago at his house, and there was not many people there, but they are firmly against this convention of states. And I kind of heard something about this, but never really even understood it or knew what it was. So I watched this whole presentation on this convention of states of how bad it is and this, that, and the other thing. And I got to thinking, I said, well, I mean, it was a very good argument. So over the weekend, I'm kind of looking through, or last week I was looking through Fox Nation. So Tucker Carlson had this interview with a guy about the Convention of States. I says, wow, I just saw something about this. Let me watch. Well, now I am actually for the Convention of States, not against it. Because if you want to learn something, watch that interview, Kevin. Really opened your eyes on how the Constitution is supposed to work. And basically what it is, so when they wrote the Constitution, they gave Congress power to change the Constitution, okay? Congress plus 36 states,
right?
Okay, or 3/4 of the states. So I think it was Thomas Paine who stood up and said, wow, now how are we going, what if we have a tyrannical government like England? Shouldn't the states be able to change the Constitution? Shouldn't we have a mechanism here? Because people are not going to vote themselves,
right,
out of power.
Right.
And so that's what this Convention of States is all about. Basically, I think it needs 26 states to actually start a convention, but you still need to get it ratified by 3/4 of the states to actually change the Constitution. So it's actually a pretty good measurement.
It is. Yeah, I don't.
And it
totally
takes Washington completely out of it takes Washington completely out of the process.
Right.
And the president, the Congress, none of them have any say. It's the states that have to come together and suggest what the changes should be, and then all the states have to ratify it. So there's still checks and balances there.
Right.
That's what I got from the conversation.
Yeah, I agree. And part of the problem with that is we're so divided that the odds of it working are pretty slim. We're in a place political where we're so split and we've moved so far away from the middle. We're arguing about the extremes all the time. And I just don't, you look at elections, how close they've become constantly, and all these issues, and even issues within states. It's, the founding fathers were brilliant. When you look at the way the Constitution was set up and the power of the states and states' rights, and it was absolutely brilliant, and it worked really well. Right. I wonder if we can get ourselves out of this one.
Well, I'm gonna tell you why I believe this is something that actually will happen, because this takes the power away from the federal government and gives it back to the state. So even if it's a blue state, they'll get the same. So basically, we always hear about Thomas Jefferson and Andrew Hamilton, big government, small government, how they always argued. But Alexander Hamilton being a big government guy, Thomas Jefferson being a small government guy. But they also didn't want to have the government. So all of our laws that make you crazy and make me crazy about how we have a federal education system, how we have a federal EPA system, how we have a federal agency for this. These are all enacted with court orders, not constitutional amendments.
Right. I know.
So if the states go back and have this so-called convention of states and say that we don't need the government to have the same regulations that the states have, and I forgot what the term is on that. There is a term for that, but it'll give the states more power and get all of these organizations out of the government that are controlling these agencies through the states.
Yeah,
I think so the blue states will still be blue states, and they'll have more power to be more blue, and the red states will have more power to be more red. But that's what the states are about. You can change
absolutely. And I like that system. So we'll see. I hope it does work out that way. Fred, I just looked at the calls. Got to get to them. They're starting to pile up on me. It's a free-for-all Monday. If you want to jump in, 855-950-3835. You're going to head off to Florida. Raymond, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning. What's on your mind today?
I need to sell a Volvo truck.
Okay.
I have changed I'm going to my dream. I'm 62. I'm going to work on a Jersey farm. We milk cows, and we sell natural whole milk.
Awesome.
We don't pasteurize or process it.
Completely raw. I love that. It's illegal in the state of Oregon.
Yes.
You can buy
I know it.
Cannabis.
It's illegal everywhere. But
you can buy cannabis on every corner. In Oregon, it's not even illegal to have hard drugs on you anymore. That's not criminal in this state. You don't get a ticket for it. You don't go to jail. Hard drugs. But I can't have raw milk.
Yeah. Well, here's the way his milk is labeled for animal consumption only.
I know that, I talk about this all the time. They can write all the rules they want. People will find ways around them.
Yeah, I'm an animal. So I'm drinking it.
That's right. Yep, that's right. So
I grew up, sir, I grew up on it.
Yes.
When I went to school, my mama, I said, Mommy, I don't like that milk they got down there at school. She said, oh, you don't like that old stuff, so I took it down there and played with it. Okay?
Yeah.
You hear what I said?
I do.
Okay.
That's right.
So I grew up on raw milk.
Yep.
And up to the time I was way up in the teens, Mommy finally bought a pasteurizer because the preacher wanted to buy from us, and he was afraid to give it to his kids without pasteurization.
All right, there you go. So you're going back to the farm. Good. I love that.
Yes, sir. And I will be talking to you from there occasionally just to let you know how things are going.
I'd love it.
But I need really bad to get out from under this Volvo truck. I mean,
all right.
It's got a brand new rebuild in it. It's warranted from Volvo for the next 9 months, I guess now.
So let's talk about that for just a second. So what year is this truck?
2016.
Why did it get an in-frame?
It dropped that valve. Remember we talked about.
Okay.
Remember
yes,
we
that's
got
right.
Tomislav Gavrin. Tomislav Gavrin is the guy that does the electric APU.
Got it. Yep. Now I
He's
remember.
a hell of a good guy, and now I think he sort of got started with Landstar because of what we did. So I really
Yeah.
boosted him.
Well, good. So do we know what that
And
that wasn't under warranty, right?
no, it
So-
came out of my pocket
Yeah.
or mine of his.
So what
pocket.
did that cost total?
$25,700.
Say that
Well,
again.
I wrote the check for. 25,700.
Okay. Yeah. The reason I ask.
25.7.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because we do so few in-frames on any of these engines after about 2014 or so. We just don't see it much anymore. The Volvos, we almost never hear of these things being rebuilt. So I was just curious as to what it cost. It's not as bad as I thought. It certainly could have been worse. So,
Well, they showed me a little mercy. Actually, the dealership showed me a little bit of mercy. They could have went to 30,000 on these, but they did it for 25.
yeah, I was figuring these engines are complicated enough, and the labor cost trying to get these things apart and back together. I was thinking 35 wouldn't be out of the question
God.
today.
Right. It wouldn't be. So, but no, I feel like the dealership there is my hometown, Somerset, Kentucky. Come on, but
Yeah. No, I
if
think
anybody would
they
help
did
me
you
out,
right.
they would.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they did me really right. And I don't know. I really don't know. I hope. I'm pretty sure it's a good rebuild.
Oh, I would think so.
Anyway, somebody needs this truck besides me.
Right.
Really, they do, and I don't know who it is, but somebody's out there needing the truck right now. It's got all the bells and whistles, sir. It's got the electric APU. It's got a Webasto bunk heater that heats your water. You never have to have a cold start.
Nice. Like that.
Okay? Yes, I love that feature of it. It's got the inverters. It's got a refrigerator. It's made to live in. It's got a refrigerator, microwave, a hot plate, a power inverter second to none. You can probably run a grill off of it. I don't know. But you can probably run anything you want to run with 110 electricity off that power inverter.
Okay.
Okay? So I'm just, please, if you'll help me, buddy, you were very instrumental in causing me to buy it.
All right. So now I got to help you sell it. All right. So
you're the Volvo man. So
how many miles are on this thing total?
854 right now. I think it might be 855. It's
That's
843 on rebuild, and I put about 10 or 12 on it.
Oh, so this is a
I did change the oil over there. I changed the oil myself.
Really fresh rebuild.
Yes, it's not even got the mileage back yet. I mean, it's getting about 7 right now, but it should be doing 7.8 or 8.
There was almost a chance I would have looked at buying this truck from you. I've been playing around with some ideas what we want to do with the coach. It's been in the shop for months. There's still a lot of work to get done to it. I don't know if I want to keep that.
It would make you a hell of a vacation truck, buddy.
Well, that's I was,
really would.
I
just think about it.
There are a couple nice, really nice new fifth wheels out on the market. Tiffin actually started building some fifth wheels, and they're building some beautiful stuff. And I got the bug again. I wanted to go buy a tractor and pull a custom trailer, but I don't know. We'll see. So
you might be able to get what the kicker is the insurance. See, that's the real reason I can't own a second truck. I've been through a war with my insurance company because they won't let you own 2 trucks without them being both insured.
Insurance has become a mess in the last couple of years as well. So have you?
Oh, they're running the country.
Have you tried to put a price on this thing yet?
I put it in the truck papers for $75,900. That's way high, but you got to start somewhere.
Any interest at all yet?
No, I haven't had one peep.
Yeah, I didn't think so. How much? What is the?
Everybody said, "Wow, he's dreaming on that."
Well, like you said,
really,
you start
what
somewhere.
I
It's such a volatile market. Prices have been all over the place. They're still not normalized. So it's difficult to price things right now. Here's the way I might approach this, though, since I think we might have to take a different approach here. You know, typically when we sell something big ticket like this, we really want to get every dollar out of it we possibly can. And that's usually our mindset.
Yeah.
I would probably take a different mindset just because we are in a market that is getting worse every week. And I don't see it getting better anytime soon. So I would take the approach of I've got to get rid of this thing. The longer I wait, the worse it's going to get. So if you don't know this number right now, and you don't have to say the number if you don't want to. I know in negotiation we don't want to give up our numbers, but here's the number I would be
position. Yeah.
Here's the number I would be trying to get in my own head really fast. What is the absolute minimum I will take for this truck and walk away from it? And I'd be trying to get that price. I would not be trying to hard negotiate. I wouldn't be trying to list it high and hope somebody calls, because you can see they're not calling. We're in a horrible market and it's going to get worse every week. So the goal here, you got to sell this thing fast. You can't hold out for a couple more $1,000.
Right. You know, I was thinking about the Indiana auto auction, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, it might not be a bad idea.
I sold one there before, Indiana truck auction in Fort Wayne right there.
Yeah, I might just do that. I think the goal here is just
Fort Wayne,
get out of this thing without getting hurt is all we're trying to do.
Well, I'm already hurt. I mean, I made a terrible decision, Kevin. Really, I have. I could have had $100,000 in the bank right now if I just stuck with International.
Now, I know we've all been there.
No kidding.
I know. So now we want to try to make the best of that, and I just really think.
But then I'd had.
Go ahead.
If I'd have done that, though, I'd have had 87,000 IRS agents coming up my ass. So. I swear.
That's right. So all I'm really saying here is we just have to have a different mindset. You know, sometimes our mindset is we need to get every penny out of this we can. We're going to find the right buyer. We're going to negotiate hard. We'll wait till somebody comes along. You can't have that approach in this market. This market has to be, how do I get the hell out of this thing quickly?
Yeah, you're right. Unless I want to wait 2 or 3 years or 10 years till the shit comes. Who knows when it'll come back, Kevin? You never know. It might be back next year. It might never be back.
You're right. Both of those scenarios. You are correct. Both of those scenarios are possible, and we can't know. But I can make some fairly educated guesses. I think that we are, bare minimum, we're in for a rough 2 years.
I think you're right.
If it goes beyond that, then all bets are off.
I predicted a deep depression, really, when the current administration went in.
It's possible.
Of course,
no doubt.
How deep we're going to get, who knows? I mean, it's just really they're finally starting to admit we're in a recession, I think.
Well,
I've known that for 6 months.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I just think that you've got to take the approach. So here's the other way I would approach this. Not only would I approach it as I've got to sell it fast. I can't really try to hold out and get a little more money. When I get an offer, this thing's going. So you got to figure out what that bottom price is. Here's the other way I would approach this. I would approach this as my full-time job is to sell this truck.
Yeah, right. I've got a lady friend involved. She was sort of one of the reasons I bought it. I thought, well, we'd look good right down the road in that thing, and all that.
Right.
It wasn't her fault. It wasn't her fault. I mean, she's an older my Kentucky woman. She's a hell of a woman. She is 9 years my senior, and she and her husband were really, really successful at the dairy business.
Well, there you go.
She got her full stock in life. So
there you go. You got to get rid of this thing. Make it your full-time job, and don't get too worked up about not getting the price you want.
Greedy. Well, if you decide you might want to negotiate on the price, would you call me off the air and I'll tell you what it takes.
All right.
I'm serious now, brother.
Yeah,
okay?
Don't hold out for me. Yeah, I'm not making any big decisions these days.
I'm not holding out. The first guy here with the money I need is the guy that's going to get it.
See,
I'm not holding for nobody.
Here's the thing. I made some smart decisions in the last couple of years, and I'm sitting on cash. So I'm waiting for people to get really desperate.
Yeah.
I don't want you to wait till you get desperate. That's why you got to sell this thing fast. I'm going to hang out and wait until we really hit the bottom and people are getting desperate. Then I'll start using my cash.
There you go. That's what I meant to do. But how do you bank cash without giving half of it to the government?
That is almost impossible. It really is. I know people talk about, if you're now, when you get up to the point where you're making hundreds of millions, yeah, there are ways to shelter a bunch of it, but those people still pay a lot of tax. There's just no way around it.
Well, they should. I mean,
exactly.
People that should pay the taxes. The common working man Blojo out here working for $20 an hour and paying 25 or 30% of the government. That's a sin.
I think we all pay too much tax. I don't think the answer is you put it all on the backs of the rich people, because why should we have to?
No, you don't.
The way we should run our government is no different than the way I get criticized for this constantly, the way I talk about running a business. Very seldom do you ever hear me talk about revenue much. What you always hear me talk about is cut expenses. That's the best way to run a business. It's the best way to run your own bank account. Cut expenses. So when we keep hearing about the government needs more tax money, who are we going to tax? And the answer is, we'll tax the rich. No, stop taxing anybody this way. Stop spending so much stupid money. Let's get rid of. That's why that's why I really am a big fan of Vivek Ramaswamy. I don't know if the guy has a snowball's chance in hell, but I like what he's saying. He wants to get rid of entire agencies in the government, which is exactly what we should be doing.
Amen. Yes. You know what? Well, that's one thing. I went through a government shutdown one time. The government shut down. I didn't notice one damn bit of difference out here in the real world.
Exactly. We could shut down. Well, here's another example. I used to say that, we should run our government more like we run businesses. But even that anymore, when you look at Twitter is a great example. Our economy was so strong, these tech companies make so much money, that Elon Musk was able to come in and fire about 80% of the staff, and somehow Twitter got better? How inefficient was that? What the hell were all those people doing? That's like our government, though. We could get rid of about 80% of our government, and the average person would never notice a difference.
I wonder if Elon might ever run for president.
I don't know. I don't think he should either. I don't know.
I don't think he should either. I tell you who I want the next president to be is Ron DeSantis. I hope he's got enough. Well, I know nothing about his political. I think he needs to be the next president. Ron DeSantis does.
I wouldn't argue that. And when he came out just recently against sending any money to Ukraine and trying to shut that down, he instilled even a little more confidence in me. So maybe DeSantis should pick up Ramaswamy as his running mate. Maybe that's how this will shake out. We'll see. We're going to roll back into the calls here. We're going to go to Arkansas this time. Austin, welcome to the program.
How's it going?
Good. What's on your mind today?
I'm on my third year of my own authority. I've been very blessed. I almost got my truck paid off, got my trailer paid off.
Congratulations.
And just about got through paying, I did get through paying the high insurance for the first 2 years. My renew for my third year went down about what was it? Went from 21 to 12
Excellent.
on my
Man,
insurance.
that's a nice little bonus.
And I bought a dump truck. I bought it more for sentimental value, but I paid cash for it, And I want to have it to use, and my dad's going to drive it some. But to put it on my MC, they want $7,000 to put
Wait.
it on my insurance.
Oh, okay. $7,000 a year?
A year, yes.
Yikes. That's a
Just
lot.
to add it on to my MC number, it is.
Huh.
I was thinking, I don't know if you've ever heard, I don't need an MC on that. All I need is an intrastate authority. How would you go about doing that? I could get another DOT number, but I'm thinking I'd have to have another business name and everything.
I have no idea. You stumped me on this. This is compliance kind of stuff. The states can be different and confusing. This is not my area of expertise at all. I realize we don't need any kind of authority here because we're hauling exempt commodities. So it's not authority that we're talking about. You're just talking about registering with the DOT, your MC number. I have a feeling that, and I'm just guessing again at this, so don't put any stock in anything I say. You and I are just hanging out at the liar's counter right now. I have a feeling it's not going to matter to your insurance company how any of this is registered. I think they're just looking at it and saying, we have a vehicle out on the street and this is what we're going to charge them. I don't know that how it's registered is going to matter to them.
Right. Well, I got some friends that run intrastate, they haul with dump trucks, and he's got a 30-year-old newer truck than what mine is. He only pays like $4,500 a year on intrastate.
Okay. Then maybe there is something to this. Maybe if the insurance here's all that changes. I guess what I'm saying is whether you are registered with a federal DOT or just intrastate, which again, I don't understand all that well. Again, I don't think the insurance company cares about that. I think their rate is based on what this truck's going to be doing. Are they aware that it's only going to be used locally?
Yes, and I've told them that, and they said it don't matter. It only goes on the policy. See, under my MC, I have a $100,000 trailer interchange.
What if you were to do this? What if you were to just start calling insurance companies, forget your other business, forget your other insurance policy right now, ignore it. Just start calling insurance companies and say, I have a dump truck and I'm going to run around local, and what's my insurance cost going to be? You get a separate policy.
But then you have to have a separate DOT number.
So that's not that hard to get. It's not like we're getting authority.
How would I make that work on my taxes? Because I'd want to
your taxes, this has no impact on your tax bill at all. Zero. Doesn't matter. We could register 12 different DOT numbers and run 12 trucks as 12 separate companies, and it has zero impact on our taxes. Still pay the same amount of tax.
Yes. But you can write that off for my current company, or it's separate. If you take a loss on it, it's going to help you at the end of the year anyway.
No matter what, right. So what would happen if you operate these two businesses as sole proprietors? And if you did it as corporations, it wouldn't matter. My explanation would just sound a little different. You just run them as separate businesses and you would fill out 2 Schedule Cs. If we ran all the trucks together and let's say there was, some trucks made some money, the dump truck lost some money. So you ended up, I'm just going to pull a number out of the air. You ended up with $80,000. Some trucks made a little money, some trucks lost a little money, ended up with $80,000. If you separate them, you still end up with the same profit. You still pay the same tax. The reason we don't do this a lot, the reason we don't do that a lot is because it just creates a whole bunch of work for us and it doesn't really accomplish anything. Here, though, by starting a second company, which isn't a lot of work, it's pretty damn simple, really, we're able to get I don't even know if this is going to work. I'm just saying it's the approach I would take right now. We may get a much lower tax bill. So there is a reason to create this second company and do a little extra work. But how you operate the trucks under one company, under 10 separate companies, really has no impact on taxes.
Just you, and then as far as the drug testing and stuff, you probably have no idea on that. Can you run it all under? I mean, I'm under a drug testing program the way it is. That would work for my next company. I wouldn't have to start a whole new one up for that, would I?
I don't know any of these answers. Again, when it comes to compliance, I just don't. I don't spend much time on it. I would think that you could do it that way, but I'm not positive.
And hey, you're probably not going to get in trouble much if they would look into it.
No.
I mean,
no.
On an intrastate authority, you don't have your, what is it, yearly,
the audit,
1 year
right?
Audit.
Yeah, you don't have that big safety
but
audit.
They're never really going to got you. All righty. So, well, I think I accomplished a little bit. It's worth looking into if I could save
yeah, I think
$4,000 a year on insurance.
Yeah, I'd give that a shot. It's like I said, really the insurance company is just looking at the risk they have. All these different, types of registration. All that does is tell them that the truck's not going to go outside of the state. Let's go to South Dakota this time. Patrick, welcome to the program.
Morning. So $600 a month for insurance on that. I guess if he shopped that around, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Like you said, just call the other guy's insurance company. Maybe he can get that $4,500 rate as well.
That's what I'm thinking.
And can't you just start a second? Go ahead.
Well, I'm thinking if somebody got that rate in the state for an intrastate dump truck, then there isn't any reason he shouldn't be able to get that rate. I think what's confusing it is he runs an over-the-road operation. And every vehicle he puts into that operation, they're going to try to charge as though it's an over-the-road unit. So I think by just separating this and walking in one truck, here's what I do, you can kind of at least simplify that process. And no, you're not being penalized because you have these other trucks on the road.
Well, and like on my registration out of Wyoming, it says fleet number 001, right? Because we've only got one fleet.
Right.
I wonder if in his state he can have a second fleet under intrastate under the same name.
That's possible too.
So I don't know. So there you go. But the reason why I called is on your opening, I've got some cash, and if I put that cash in a CD and took that cash out, got it to the maturity date and took that cash out, is that cash? It's not cash now; it's a check, right? Or transfer into my checking account, however that works. And now that cash that I had is now traceable through our glorious government. Is that kind of right?
Yes. Yeah. Anytime we put our money in any institution, the government requires all kinds of reporting from financial institutions. They want to know how much money we've got. Yes. Once it's in the system, it's being tracked. Let me give you an example of so if you wanted to just keep your money, buried in the backyard or stuff your mattress with it or whatever, you can. Here's what you're giving up at the moment. Let's say that you had 100,000 that we wanted to put into a CD, or we wanted to, we don't want it just sitting in the backyard. We actually want it to make a little money. Given today's rates, I think I can get a CD today at about 5.25%. So if you put 100,000 in the bank in a 1 year CD at 5.25%, I just looked it up. I can get that rate today. Then I end up with $5,250 of kind of free money. If I bury it in my backyard, I don't have that $5,200.
But isn't the whole point of having a little bit of cash in a lockbox at the house?
Oh, no doubt.
A better idea in case everything goes to hell on us?
Well, yes. Hopefully it doesn't have to be one or the other. I mean, I have a reasonable amount of cash on hand that will never see the bank. I've got physical cash in my hand, and I'm always going to keep that amount. Above and beyond that, then where am I going to invest cash to get my best return? But no, there's definitely a number. Everybody kind of has to decide what that number is for themselves. But there is a number that I believe we should be holding in cash, in our own possession, always.
Okay, and so in your opinion, what is that number? And it doesn't have to be your number, but just for us, guys that got a little cash, what do you think that number is?
So I'm going to put out a number. Here's a problem with it. Some people are going to be shocked because they've never had that amount of money in their lifetime. I mean, if you look at the average American honestly has never had cash available. Most people live paycheck to paycheck. They've got debt and credit cards and all kinds of other things. So a lot of people hear the number and they're shocked, and other people go, well, that's not going to be enough, is it? So it's a number that's really hard to come to. I will tell you that I don't like to have anything less than $25,000.
And that's kind of where I'm at, too.
Yeah, and that's just pure cash. That's not going in the bank for any reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's somewhere safe.
Yeah, and then yesterday I visited with some folks that I used to work for. I've been a long time catching up, and they're in their late 70s, and they're in and I don't know if you know anything about this or not, but they're into radionics. And do you know anything about that?
I've never even heard the word.
Okay. Well, so it's kind of cool. I'm not sure I know all about it either.
Okay, so
I got the better half.
I just read a quick explanation, and I would not be in favor of this at all.
Okay,
here's why. So what we're talking about here, radionics, also called electromagnetic therapy, is an alternative medicine that claims disease can be diagnosed and treated by applying electromagnetic radiation. I doubt that very, very highly. I think the opposite is true. We start messing around. I'm worried about EMFs in general for my health. EMFs did not exist in the forms we have today when we were hunter-gatherers. We have Bluetooth, we have radio signals, we have cell phone signals, we've got electricity being generated, we're sending signals from our phone to earbuds stuck in our ear. I think one of our big health issues today is an excess of EMFs. And I have never seen any research where we understand exactly how this works. So to take something that I think is killing us slowly and causing all kinds of health issues and then try to use that as a therapy, there's almost zero information that this is effective at all. Right. Yeah, there's almost none.
Okay.
I would stay so far away from this.
Okay. And then you guys were talking with that first caller.
So let me go back and explain.
Okay.
Sometimes when we talk about the human body, I've said before, you can go back and find research that'll support almost anything you want to support. So I always go back to how did we evolve as hunter-gatherers? When we were healthy, we didn't have tooth decay, we didn't have autoimmune conditions, we didn't have metabolic diseases. We died from things like infections or, injury, but we didn't have all these chronic diseases. At that time, when we were living as hunter-gatherers, completely healthy like that, where did EMFs even come into play? They didn't. So why do we think that somehow EMFs now are the way we need to be healthy? Like we think we have some lack of EMFs? We don't have enough magnetic frequencies messing with our body? We're going to add some more?
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, well, I mean, I get it, and the running joke over there yesterday, was, where's your sailboat-shaped aluminum hat? That kind of thing, because it does
Right.
kind of sound a little goofy. Right?
Well,
And they laugh, and they're good folks. Don't take that the wrong way. But
I do try to
good people.
keep my mind wide open. I really do. I try to take a new idea and look at it from all angles and say, just because it sounds goofy, I'll look at it. I've looked at this idea of EMFs, even though I didn't know this existed. I've done enough research and background and thought about enough things. As soon as I see this, I have a pretty strong opinion about it.
Well, I get it. And I was skeptical out of the chute. And like I said, the wife's doing her research now, and I've got your opinion, and I'll let her give me hers, and
There you go.
and then we'll go from there. And she's pretty damn smart.
There you go.
But anyway, back to that first phone call, you guys were talking about, all the money floating around and how they switch it from here to there and all that stuff. Well, let me tell you something. The people in Washington they do the same thing that the criminal system put what the hell's her name, Martha Stewart away for. They're doing insider trading.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
who knows what they're doing? If you figure out how many pickups, cars, and big trucks are on the road every day fueling up, what are they doing with all that road tax? They sure as hell ain't putting it in the road.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean about all the
They got to be
government
sticking
spending.
it in their pocket.
Yeah, well, that's how
Right.
that's how politicians end up being extremely wealthy. When we know exactly how much money they earn every year, and none of it makes sense. There's no way Nancy Pelosi should be worth all the money she's worth right now. Or
Except
any
that she's got
politician. I could pick a
6
ton
months
of.
before it happened.
I could pick Republicans and say the same thing. If they've spent their whole career in politics, they should not be multimillionaires.
But 6 months before something hits the market, they've already got the
I know.
inside line on it.
Exactly. Well, and not only that, we know there's all kinds of corruption and kickbacks, and I can think of 100 ways to make money as a politician, and they're all wrong.
Well, and how can any one person live with themselves doing that shit, except they've got more money in their pocket than they deserve? Until they give themselves term limit, they're not going to do any different.
Here's an idea I've had that it freaks a lot of people out. Almost everybody agrees with term limits, right? Have you ever heard an average person who doesn't agree with term limits?
Nope.
There doesn't seem to be many. I'm sure we could find a couple of loonies if we look hard enough. But for the most part, everybody kind of agrees. Our government was supposed to be of the people, for the people, by the people. We were average citizens were supposed to go serve their government and then go back home. That's how it was supposed to work. We never really gave much thought to these career politicians. What about this? What if we did institute term limits? And I'm not going to argue about the details right now, but some sort of term limit. So you can't stay in Congress. We have a term limit on the president and we should have the same thing on Congress, and even bureaucrats. We should have term limits on bureaucrats as well. But I would make one more change, and this is the one that freaks people out. I say, since we have term limits, you're not going to be there forever. You're going to be there for a limited amount of time, and then you're not going to some other position in the government either. I mean, the term limits are going to be clear. You go to the government, you serve your time, you go home, become a civilian again, and then maybe you can come back after a certain amount of time and try for another job. But you're not going to stay in government your whole life. Once we have term limits in place, here's the idea that freaks people out. I think when you get elected, you should get paid during your time in government exactly what you are getting paid in the free market.
Yes.
Why wouldn't you?
Why should they make $174,000 a year to be in Congress?
Wait a minute. I'm saying I might pay somebody $1 million a year to be in Congress, but I may pay somebody else minimum wage. Why does everybody get the same? That's not how it works in the real world. We have truck drivers. We talk about it all the time. We have truck drivers who made over 200,000 last year. We have some that made 40,000. That's the way free markets work. If you are only getting paid minimum wage in a free market, why would I pay you more than that to work in the government? And if you're so good that you're getting $1 million a year in the free market, well, then that's what you're worth in the government. It's my opinion.
So are you saying that bartender from New York should only be making bartender wages?
Yeah. And look, maybe she was really good and she got really good tips. Whatever she reported to the government for tips and paid tax on, she should get that as well.
Well, there you go. I agree with that. That's a great point. That doesn't freak me out at all.
No, I know.
Whatever your worth is in the private sector should be what you're getting.
Why not?
Yep. No, I'm right there. Yep.
But only with term limits, obviously.
But they're never going to give themselves term limits.
No,
so how do we as a country do this? How do we as a country do this?
You know, unfortunately, and talk about freaking people out, the only way I see to change that at this point in where our country is a revolution.
Well, and Bruce asked me last night on Facebook how we take this country back, and that was my answer to his question. A revolution.
I've thought about other ways. We talk about, being informed and voting and all that, and honestly, we've been saying that my whole life, and it hasn't worked. Things have gotten worse, not better. At some point, you have to say, I don't know how we turn this around.
I don't either.
And nobody else does
about
either.
That? What about what he was talking about, that conglomeration of states? Would that put term limits on our Congress?
It could.
Or could that happen that way? I guess I don't understand all that either.
It is complicated, but it's how we change the Constitution is what we're talking about. The changing the Constitution is a pretty radical, we can amend the Constitution. We have lots of amendments. Many of them have been really good. But it is a very, very difficult process. It does require this convention of states, which is a big deal. Then it still has to be ratified. It's why it doesn't happen often. I don't know when the last time. We'd have to go look to see. But it doesn't happen often. And I think that, again, I tried to explain this, and I don't know if I did a very good job. Based on where we are in politics, we're so divided. And I think in order to have a convention of states, to actually make an amendment to the Constitution, we need a lot of bipartisan agreement. And we don't have that anywhere. So I don't see the convention of states saving us this time.
So do you think instead of that it is true that a revolution has to happen for we the people to take this country back?
I certainly don't want
hard,
that.
Isn't it?
It's really hard. I don't want that to happen. It sounds outrageous to even talk about it or think about it. But I also know that I've put a lot of time and thought into where we are with our government, and I don't see how you reverse this.
I don't either. Big government. That's
too big.
And we get a guy like, and look, I still think if Trump could have kept his mouth shut, he probably could have won the last election. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
He absolutely could have.
He ran the country. He ran the country like a business. And I think all of us business owners that listen to you and have learned from you and this and that and the other thing can put that into perspective and say this country needs to run like a business. Period.
I agree. Here's the problem. As a business owner, he got to the place where you've got enough money, you've got enough resources, you've got enough power that you can look at the media if you want, tell them to go take a flying you-know-what. Who cares? What are they going to do to him as a business person? Nothing. But the minute he stepped into politics, his biggest mistake was making an enemy of the media.
And the nicknames and
all of it.
All
of it.
You know.
Right. And he's not going to change. That's the problem. He's not going to change. As a business person, Do that all you want. When you get that strong, you can just tell everybody, take a leap. I don't need you. You can't ever do that as a politician. Right. And we saw what happened. He defeated himself.
Well, and I was very proud of him when he went to Palestine, Ohio, and gave that water and made an appearance, and he didn't make it about himself. Is that the new Trump? But is he going to get indicted this week and he's in jail or what?
Well, now the crazy talk is that if he does get arrested and it's public and he's put in handcuffs and all this, that he would win in a landslide, is what some people are predicting.
Yep. Well, and maybe that's what needs to. But
yeah,
I'm not sure I'm behind him.
I'm
that's
not.
My trouble.
I'm not. I've said it 1,000 times. I'll probably say it 1,000 more before this is all over with. I loved his policies. I don't think he should be president. I just don't think it's good for this country. I want somebody with policies just like his.
I think he should be an advisor.
I don't know what. I think he has become such a lightning rod that I don't know that there's a place for him anywhere in today's politics, honestly. But I don't know. But as far as the election goes, I don't think he just should not be our candidate. I don't think it was good. I think it tore the country apart. And again, it's not because of his policies, but he should have never made an enemy of the media. It was a horrible mistake.
You know, if they could sew a zipper on his lips and then just have an assistant pull that closed after he makes a statement and then he walks off the stage, that'd be a pretty good deal.
Well, then they'd also have to stop him from tweeting.
Yeah, I know. So, all right. Well, that's all I had.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a good day.
Go check out. Yeah, go check out
bye-bye.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Okay.
And like I said, I don't know where this is going to go. I really like what this guy is saying. And if you liked Trump's policies, I think you'll like Vivek's even more. He's saying a lot of really, really smart things. We'll see what happens. It's a crazy situation. All right, we are out of calls. Let me check real quick to see if I had any other notes I wanted to talk about, and I'll give you a minute or two if you want to jump in with the call here. One thing I'm interested in, this may have an interesting impact on our industry right now. We have new low NOx rules coming out for 2027, which isn't that far away, and they're already talking about a pre-buy. There'll be a 2026 deadline. And here's some of the headlines I've been seeing. Is the largest truck pre-buy ever on the horizon? Environmental group says no evidence of truck pre-buys. EPA 2027 and beyond, how will new low NOx rules affect fleets? We're already in a crazy time. One more big rule like this could really kind of throw us into a tailspin. So we'll keep an eye on that, let you know what's going on with that. I did cover the California produce season. If you haul produce out of California and you're used to those numbers and how the seasons change, call me up. Let's talk about it. I just saw another headline. 20% of the strawberry fields in California are underwater. Strawberries are going to be very expensive this year. Fortunately, I think I should have a very, very good strawberry season this year. My strawberries are now 2 years old, and they were really starting to produce last year. So watch out for strawberry prices. And I think you're going to see a lot of produce prices go up. But I'm also concerned about what it's going to do for rates and volume in trucking. Let's go to Tennessee. Steve, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Good morning for you. Talking about the convention of the state. You know, the things that are not going to get done at anything like that are the left or right issues. Because you got to have enough for 38 states to 3/4 plus to admit to agree to it.
Right.
So the things that are 80 to 85% are voter ID, are term limits, those are the kind of things that just those things coming in would change government a lot.
Term
and
limits,
the term
no
limits,
doubt.
for the most part,
Hold on, though, because
yeah.
term limits, like I said, I think when you talk to the average person on the street, you find very few people against term limits. Talk to the average person on the street about voter ID.
Same thing with voter ID.
No, I don't believe that. There are an awful lot of people on the left
the
who...
polls, the people, a vast majority of Democrats, of blacks, of Hispanics, all the polls. Now, the media will not let you look at those polls. That's the problem. They don't highlight the polls that don't go their way.
Yeah,
you got to remember that. It's all about the narrative. It's all about the narrative with them.
Well, here's one of the things that's happened in the last couple of years, and I'm not sure if they're accounting for a lot of this. We know polls can be horribly wrong depending on how they're conducted, but one of the things I don't think they're accounting for is most of the voters in this country. Would you agree that most of them aren't very well informed?
No, they're not well informed, but that one thing, knowing that I've got to put my driver's license down to do anything else in society,
I get it.
Other than vote.
I get it.
That's why there's such a large percentage of the public that agrees with that, but not the media and not the Illuminatis on the left. And they're the ones that control the narrative in the country.
I think what's changed is if you look at, and I'm going to just point to the left, if you look at the left and how whacked out some of them have got, the public, the people who identify as being a progressive liberal, they are all for this. They do not believe that you should have to show an ID. And they go through all their reasons. So I think one of the things that's changed is we have a lot of partisan politics, the average person being so uninformed that they are swayed by the media. And you just said yourself, the media will not let you see the truth about these kinds of issues. And I do think we have a lot of people that...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so even that one worries me a little, that there wouldn't be enough support for even that one.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the media would try to push that 80% down. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Right.
They would, but when you look at, just look every day. You can't do anything in this country without showing an ID.
Of course not.
And you cannot go into any democratic function without going. You can't do anything. You can't do anything without it. And most people understand that, and that's an easy one to understand. It was kind of like the old back in '88, the old the check kiting scheme that all the congressmen had. You remember? That really hit home when people said, "Wait a minute, I can't kite a check and have them hold it for 2 weeks before they put it in," and that resonated with the people.
So let me tell you what I would be for, and this might surprise people, but the one argument that they want to make around voter ID is that there are people who can't afford an ID, whatever that cost might be, 10 or 15.
Give everybody a freebie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I am all for it. Take some of our tax money, make sure everybody has easy access to a free ID. Now, when I say easy, it's still got to be verified. We need to know that it's the right person, but give it to them. Take my tax money and give them a free ID. I'm all for that.
Yeah, I mean, this is where have a picture ID, and that picture, use facial recognition there to make sure somebody hadn't got 12 of them. So they can vote 12 different ways. But that's not hard to think about. But the other thing I'm going to bring up, I was just before the show started today, listening to you and Henry on Friday, and wanted to bring a little bit different perspective, an actuarial perspective to the Social Security thing. Right now, we're actually at a point right now where the quote unquote trust fund, which has got IOUs in it, they've been spending all that money for years and years, but till about 2033, about 10 years from now, money's still coming out of the trust fund. If they do nothing right now the actuaries, they've got into place, the falling birth rate, things like that, the rising death rate. The rising death rate is actually helping Social Security. All these died suddenly, they're not getting anything. They're not going to get a thing. The guy the actor the other day, I didn't know him. I heard he was a really good actor, 60 years old. He died of natural causes. All right, so But those people, they're not going to get anything. They're going to get I think it's $373. That's your death benefit from Social Security. That's what would bury you back in 1936. Of course, it won't now. But that was what they put in it originally, and it's never moved up. So that's what his family would get from him dying. But so the actuaries, have put all that into account. And in 2033, if nothing is done, I'm gonna start taking my Social Security check next year at age 70. And at age 70, I'll be getting about $4,400 to $4,500 a month. Well, this inflation lately is made it to where it's going to be relieved.
Uh-oh.
73%. What? Do you hear me? Are you there, Kevin? Hello, Kevin.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you are. Okay. Yeah. So on 10 years from now, I'll be drawing, 4,400 plus inflation over the years. On that date, it will go back down to 73% of that number, and that's the actuarial's number that will last on up to 2,100. Well, now what they'll end up doing, they'll end up moving from 67 up to 68 and 69 over these next couple of generations. That'll take care of part of it. And they'll probably do a donut for the, right now it's about $147,000 or something like that. That's all you can pay in on Social Security every year, and then you get a break after that. They will probably have a donut where you get a break up to, say, $250, and folks above that will pay on up to whatever they make. Those two things right there would bring it back up to 100% at that point actuarially.
I have a problem with one of those. I have a problem with if you're going to charge people
the donut.
If you're going to charge people, if you're going to make them pay in up to $1 million or whatever, if there's no ceiling, or even if there is a ceiling, then they need to be able to collect that back out. And that doesn't do any good. Yeah, well,
they'll get they'll get the max dollars, but yeah, it is a progressive system. The people on the bottom end get a much higher percentage of their current income than anybody in our income rates and up.
Which I think is wrong, but I won't even argue that. But I think the system, the way it's currently designed, where there is a limit, a cap on Social Security, I think that's a good idea, and it should be that way. We don't need millionaires in our Social Security system any more than what they already are.
Right, and
we don't want the government collecting on $1 million worth of salary, and we don't want the government managing and paying out on $1 million worth of salary. I have a real problem with that idea.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
a real problem. I think that would be a horrible idea.
Yeah, and but like I say, the actuaries. I mean, I follow a lot of them. And that number's moved. It was as high as 2037 at one time, but then everybody from after 2008, everybody that went off their 99 weeks of Obama unemployment, they went on SSDI because they were anxious at that point. There was a huge number it used to be 2037 was the number that it was going to be. It's come down because of things like that. And they've never looked back at these people. These people are just fine, and I'm sure they're functioning fine. I've got family members I know that they got on it, and all of a sudden they look like $1 million.
Well, here's
what I mean.
Since we're on this topic, we have this cap for Social Security, which I absolutely agree with and hope they don't change. I've also thought forever we should have that same cap on Medicare. In fact, I'd be willing to say on Medicare, just don't charge me at all, and I'll never take a dime out of that system. So what that proves is that Medicare is a Ponzi scheme. If we were to stop charging all the really rich people for Medicare,
there's no doubt.
Medicare would collapse. But the really rich people don't use Medicare.
Yeah, well, they use it, but they're not. I mean, here's the thing. Now, there's one thing to remember. Medicare Part B, if you don't, you got to sign up for it 3 months before up to 3 months after 65. Now, whether you use it or not, you got to sign up for it. If you don't sign up for it, your penalty is your Part B premiums will be 3 times normal premiums for life. You definitely want to sign up, but you just don't use it. That's all, But you do have to sign up. I heard people say, "Well, I'm not even going to sign up for it." Yeah, they're going to take it out. They're going to penalize you on your income taxes every year. and they're going to get their money. So it's kind of like the Obamacare penalty, but that's been there forever. The Medicare penalty's been there forever.
Most of the best practitioners just don't accept Medicare at all.
Oh, I agree. I agree. And do sign up, because if you don't sign up, you'll still have to pay that.
Well, right.
Like, I pay $164.20 a month. It would cost you $492.60. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Rhetorical question, but why is the whole Medicare system so stinking complicated?
I tell you what. I'll be real honest with you. I was shocked about something. For people over 65, it's pretty cheap if you're in the doctor system. Like I just have Medicare Advantage because I never use doctor.
I mean, why is it so complicated? Why do we have Part A, B, C, and D in this in this state? You get this.
A, C, D, you're up to J now. Right, you're up.
I know. Right. It's a mess.
Yeah. You have to educate yourself. I read 5 books before I turned 65, figuring out exactly what I want to do, because I don't utilize doctors much. Now I do it the cheapest way that I can. I have Medicare Advantage. I pay 0 premiums for Medicare Advantage. Only I pay for is Part B, and I got to pay for it. I'm in that system, but there again, I go to doctors. I go to don't take it. I just pay cash. It's not a big deal. I go to a chiropractor. I got a little hippie doctor, natural doctor up in Chapel Hill. But that's about it. I just pay cash. It's not a big deal for me. I'm really not in the system, other than I got to pay it, or I don't want to pay triple. Yeah, I didn't.
Exactly.
I signed up, and I'll pay the Part B, and I don't want to pay Part A's to hospitals. But everybody does need to educate themselves when they get ready to look at these things, because I educated myself on Social Security. I started it for a year, but I paused it when I found out the fact that I'm older than my wife by 7 years, the fact that I had very big earnings years, being a Teamster for 20 years, and then with Jevick New Century until 2014 when I went in business. So I had very big early years. If I waited till 70, I'd have this big monthly check starting next year. Now you've got my health to where I'm gonna live to 100 now.
There you go.
So maximizemysocialsecurity.com has me getting $1,348,000 between 70 and 100. So I plan on getting every penny of their money, because I figure I put it in there and I earned it. But
there you go. That's right. All right, Steve, going to cut you loose. Going to grab another call here. We're off to Pennsylvania. Mike, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin, are you having a good day today?
I am. What's on your mind?
Well, have you ever heard of the 10,000 Smurfs?
10,000 Smurfs? No.
Yeah, well, it's the money laundering system that the groups that take all the out of state money, and they filter it through these different individuals who maybe don't even have any of the money to even put it towards these campaigns, and they're making donations of maybe multiple donations a day for campaigns and all that throughout the year. And the average person only maybe makes 1 donation a year for a political campaign. So they found this in a group that's called they're trying to go for this 28th Amendment. And in the 28th Amendment, they're trying to not let anyone put any money from out of state into state elections or local elections. And that's what Montana, back in 1870 or something, the Supreme Court ruled that that they couldn't do that. That I think it was Kennecott Copper was basically running the state back at that point, and so the legislature passed a law in the state that no corporate money could fund the various campaigns that were going on in Montana. But the Supreme Court overruled that thing that they had the law there.
Okay.
So just wondered if you'd heard anything about that.
No, I'm not familiar with that at all.
Yeah, I read it through the Epic Times, the news in the Epic Times, and they kind of explained it pretty good. But I just thought I'd point that out to you, because a lot of the elections that are happening today, like for instance the election that happened in Alaska this last time, where I forget the actual candidate's name that were up for at that point, but 95% of the money that was in the campaign came from out of state. No, is that the state that's controlling that, or is that
Right.
the actual people putting the money in?
Yeah,
So that's what
yeah,
they're trying to do with that.
not
And
familiar
there's
with
like,
this
I
issue.
think there's 22 states. Yeah, there's like 22 states that are, in on that at this point. So I just thought I'd pass that along to you so you could,
Got it.
look into it.
Yeah, I will check that out. Thanks for the call. All right, it looks like we're going to wrap this up for today. I think we've got a pretty normal schedule this week. Power Hour tomorrow, Destination Health on Wednesday. I don't know who my guests are this week. I should figure that out, I guess. But we're in for a pretty normal week. So we'll wrap this up today. We'll see you back here tomorrow for the Power Hour. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.